ברוך אתה ה' אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. With the exception of the Holocaust of the Second World War, I think the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, the temple in Jerusalem, in the year 70, almost 2,000 years ago, was the greatest tragedy for the Jewish people. All our ritual expression was in some form materialized in this Beit HaMikdash. You know, our religious life centered around the Beit HaMikdash. There were Kohanim, those were the priests, there were Levites, there was sacrifice, everything turned around this Beit HaMikdash. And when this Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, reason would have told that that would have been the end of the Jewish people, because the Jewish people lived by the Torah. The Jewish people lived by the cult, by their religious life, and here the center of their religious life was being destroyed. So that should have been the end of the Jewish people, but it was not, thank God. Jewish people survived that. So I say to you, that was probably the greatest tragedy, but maybe the study, the synagogue, there are many factors that allowed us to overcome and to continue on living without this Beit HaMikdash. But if we take that aside, there's another event that I find horrible that happened during the first Crusades in the 11th century, around there, where three very important Jewish communities in Germany were destroyed by these marauders. They were assassins among the Crusaders also. They were not only liberators of the holy sites, they were also invaders, plunderers, who violated women and murdered left and right, and they destroyed three Jewish communities. Those Jewish communities were full of learning, full of academies. As a matter of fact, Rashi, who is one of the most important commentators who explains the Talmud and the Torah, he studied in those cities. Eventually he went back to France, where he established his own academy, and thank God for that, because otherwise who knows what would have happened to Jewish tradition were it not for the fact that in France we also had this important center. There was an important center in Spain as well, but Germany was exceptional at that time, and that was completely destroyed by the Crusaders. There is a prayer on the Sabbath morning service that starts with the words Av HaRachamim, God compassionate, that speaks about this, that speaks about what happened in those times. And I always felt, why is it that we put in some kind of funeral oration in the midst of the prayers of Shabbat? Shabbat is supposed to be a day of peace, of study, of no worry. Whatever happens during the week, you set aside. Shabbat is an island unto itself, and suddenly you introduce this prayer. Maybe because the disaster was so great that our rabbis felt even the peace of Shabbat has to be interrupted in order not to forget what happened in those communities. And I think to myself, it wasn't only the exceptional individuals that were killed. It wasn't only the academies that were burned down. It was also the future. Where are their children? Where are their successors? What happened to them? Of course, I mentioned to you that in France, another center appeared. But what happened to the one in Germany? That was exterminated. So when you do something, bear in mind, it is not only the person that you're doing harm to, you're also doing harm to his family, to his descendants. When you kill somebody, it is not only his life that is terminated, it's also his descendants. He will no longer have any descendants. So we should not maybe think about the disasters that happened to the Jewish people. There was a great historian by the name of Salo Baron. He once said, he wants to put a stop to this lachrymose history of the Jewish people. Everything is about crying. Everything is about disasters. There was another great Jewish historian by the name of Heinrich Gretz. He wrote a very comprehensive history where he, of course, dealt on every destruction that happened. We also had glorious periods in Spain and in different places. But on the other hand, there was a lot of destruction as well. And destruction, unfortunately, is more efficient than building. In 1 second, you can finish a life. And it takes so many years in order to nurture a young man, in order to nurture a family and establish one. So we have to be very careful with what we do, because what we do has consequences. If you do something wrong, bear in mind it's not only against that individual. Maybe his family suffers thereby as well. Maybe other people, friends, suffer thereby as well. I think you can contribute for this to be a much better world. Why must it be a world of confrontation at all times, of killings? Why must it be a world where one tries to take what belongs to somebody else? I think we can contribute to a better world. And remember that when you destroy something, you do much more than destroying the individual. On the other hand, when you build, maybe you do much more than building one individual. You also help to build all of society.